All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're looking at a productivity system that's designed to flip the script on your most overwhelming days, turning them into a string of small, satisfying wins. If your schedule feels like this giant mountain you have to climb, well, this is how you do it, one 10-minute step at a time. So let me ask you this. Does your daily to-do list ever feel less like a helpful guide and more like, I don't know, the final boss in some impossible video game? If you're in a high-pressure job or you're just juggling a ton of different goals, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That feeling of being totally swamped. The list just never seems to end, and you're left wondering, where do I even begin? But what if we could just change how we look at the whole thing? This quote right here, it really nails the solution. See, the problem isn't the tasks themselves, it's our perspective on them. This whole method is about transforming that brutal, grueling list into a series of small, manageable, and honestly, kind of fun victories. So how do we actually pull this off? Well, we start by reframing the entire day. The whole philosophy here is to stop treating your schedule like a chore and start treating it like a life game, a game that you are absolutely set up to win. And that brings us to the core concept, the 10-minute victory. Now, the idea here is just brilliant because it's so simple. You chop your work into these tiny 10-minute chunks, and you call each one a game. Psychologically, this is a huge deal. It just crushes that mental barrier, that resistance to getting started. You're basically tricking your brain into thinking, hey, it's just a quick 10-minute game instead of, I have to start this massive 4-hour project. Now, every good game needs a game board, right? And this is where you're going to track all your wins. I want you to think of this less like a boring old to-do list and more like your own personal command center, a daily dashboard for growth and success. On your game board, you get to define your own categories. This is the best part. It's totally customized to your life. You might have professional goals, like we see here with surgical mastery, or personal growth stuff, like a linguistic goal. And of course, those foundational areas, like physical health or fatherhood. The real key here is for you to sit down and identify the specific areas of your life where you want to level up. And here is what a real game board can look like when it all comes together. Just take a look. In the game category column, you've got your big life areas. Then the objective column breaks each one down into a super specific 10-minute task. It's not just learn German, it's one German lesson. And that target column, that's your daily goal. The whole point is to check off as many of these wins as you can, giving yourself that little dopamine hit every single time you complete a game. Okay, so you've built your game board. The next big question is, how do you get a high score? How do you realistically win 30, 40, maybe even 50 of these games in one day? The secret isn't about working harder. It's all about being way more strategic. There are really 3 core strategies to max out your daily victories. First, you've got the Surgeon's Sprint. That's all about using those little 10-minute gaps you find in your day. Then there's the multi-game stack, which honestly is a total game changer for efficiency. And finally, planning ahead for low-energy games, which is what makes this whole system sustainable. Let's talk about that multi-game stack for a second, because this is where the magic really happens. You start looking for tasks that you can do at the same time. For example, can you go for that 1-kilometer walk for your physical health game while you listen to your German lesson for your linguistic game? Of course you can. And just like that, boom, you've won 2 games in the exact same 10-minute block of time. That's how you really start to rack up those points. And here's the secret to not burning out. You have to match the game to your energy level. After a long, tough day, you probably don't have the brain power for a complex surgical review. So what do? You save the low-energy games, things like reviewing a life quote or sharing a little wisdom with your kids, for the evening. This is awesome because it means you can still get wins on the board even when you're feeling totally drained. All right, so we've designed our game and we've learned the strategies. But what's the big payoff? Why does all this matter? Well, let's just look at the simple math, because this is where the incredible compounding power of all these little daily wins really becomes obvious. So what happens if you really commit to this system? Let's just pick a nice round number, something totally achievable. Let's say you complete 40 of these 10-minute victories in a single day. What does that actually add up to? It adds up to this, about 6.5 hours. That is nearly 7 hours of focused, intentional progress in all the areas of your life that you decided are most important. And we're not talking about just being busy. This is real, focused growth. And you did it not by tackling some 7-hour monster, but by stringing together 40 tiny, manageable wins. And then, if you zoom out even further, well, the results are kind of staggering.
40 wins a day becomes 1,200 wins in a single month. Think about that. That's over 1,000 concrete, deliberate steps you've taken toward your biggest goals, both professional and personal. That is exactly how small, consistent effort compounds into huge, life-changing progress.
So as we wrap this up, I'll just leave you with this one thought. Forget about that giant, overwhelming to-do list for just a second. Just think about one tiny 10-minute block of time. What's one little game you could win right now to get your first point on the board? What's it going to be? What will be your first game of the day?